All right, guys, so we are just doing slides 6 and 7 today. We are going to start talking about and looking at how or why we experience day and night on Earth. Because like we've talked about before, we know that the sun does not turn off at night, right? So why don't we see it anymore? And that's what we're going to look at. So Earth rotates on something called an axis, causing day and night. And I want to go with this video first, and then we'll do some of the research. Okay, so what you're seeing here is you're seeing the Earth turn. So this is like if we are out in space off of the Earth and looking down on it, we are watching it turn. And so the Earth spins around an imaginary line, and we say it's imaginary because, as you can see, there is no line going through space, but it does turn around a central spot. And so we call that line the axis. So the Earth is constantly turning at this rate. And so you can see that half of the planet is in darkness and half of the planet is in light at all times. And so imagine that the Earth is right here. The Earth is just out of the frame right now. But the Earth would be right here because this is the light side. So I'm sorry, not the Earth. The sun would be right here, which is why we have this as the light side and this would be the dark side. So all your other planets are back here and sun is over here. And so because the Earth is constantly turning on its axis or rotating, and so we're going to start using that word more often, rotating on its axis, that's the reason that we have day and night. Because as it rotates, and it's always constantly rotating, as it rotates, we are either facing the sun or we're facing away from the sun. And so we either have light or we have dark. And so as you can see right here is kind of where it fades into complete darkness. So that would be, whenever we get to that line, we would be having sunset, and on the other side would be sunrise. So if you ever looked at the sun during the day, if you ever looked at it in the morning, and then the afternoon, and then the evening, you might have noticed that it looks like it moves. So in the morning, it'll look like it's on the eastern horizon because the sun rises in the east always. And then in the evening, it's on the western horizon because it sets in the west always. And you might notice that in the middle of the day, it's really high in the sky, whereas in the evening or in the morning, it's kind of low in the sky. The reason that it looks like it's moving is because we are turning. And so as we're moving around, as we are rotating around the axis, we're seeing the sun from a different vantage point. And so all these things, sunrise and sunset, day and night, the reason that the sun looks like it's moving, all of these things are caused by rotation. And it's really important that that's what you take away from this, because we really have to look at knowing the difference between rotation and revolution in 5th grade. All right, so Earth rotates on an axis. So this is kind of a drawing of what that looks like. There's the imaginary line, which we call the axis, and Earth rotates around it constantly. And so this rotation causes day and night. The change between day and night is caused by Earth rotating or spinning on its axis once every 24 hours. The half of Earth facing the sun has daytime, while the other side experiences nighttime. The rotation of the Earth causes the apparent movement of the sun. So apparent movement just means that it looks like it's moving, but it's not actually moving. It just looks like it is. And it causes the sun to look like it's moving from east to west. The sun is not moving across the sky. It just looks like it is because the Earth is rotating. And so here's another way. This little arrow at the top is what you'll see sometimes. This also represents rotation. And then this arrow going around it represents it as well. There's just several different ways that it can be illustrated. All right, so looking at this diagram, we have sunlight. We have the rotation being shown with that arrow at the top. And so we're going to fill in these sentences. All right, in the diagram, the United States is turning. Where's the United States? Okay, so the United States is turning. If it's rotating this way, then we are about to be away from the sun. So can you see that? We are rotating this direction. So the USA is going to continue rotating this way. So it is moving away from the sun. In the diagram, South America is experiencing. So South America is already away from the sun, so it's experiencing nighttime. So in the United States, we are starting to turn away, so we would probably be seeing sunset right now, whereas South America is already in darkness. And because of rotation, so something else to keep in mind, this is also why different parts of the world have different day and night times and different time zones. So while we might be having daytime, if we were over here and we're having daytime, that means there are other countries on this side of the world that are having nighttime. So it can be opposites. Oops. Okay, and so we're going to drag. So we have nighttime here and daytime here. So make sure you drag those sections for yourself. So you can see now really clearly that South America is having nighttime and the USA is partially is having sunset because we're partially in the darkness. So we're moving away from the sun at this point. All right, slide 7.
Hey everybody, welcome to sunny California. I'm Isaac. And I'm Hey everybody, welcome to sunny California. I'm Isaac. And I'm Angela. Have you ever wondered what life would be like without the sun?
All right, guys, sorry, we're having some issues with the video. Here we go.
Hey everybody, welcome to sunny California. I'm Isaac. And I'm Angela. Have you ever wondered what life would be like without the sun? That would be unthinkable. No sun would mean no palm trees, no ocean, no surfing. The sun is the main source of energy for everything. So it makes sense to soak up some of these rays instead of using energy that pollutes. See that Ferris wheel over there? That is the only Ferris wheel in the world powered by the sun. The Santa Monica Ferris wheel is powered by 4 huge solar panels. These solar panels are made up of semiconductors that transform the sun's energy into electricity. So if that big old Ferris wheel can get all its energy from the sun, then most anything can. Yeah, I've always wondered why most cars aren't solar powered, so I did some experimenting with my own solar car. So when the sun shines, the car moves. But how much does the speed of the car change as the sun moves across the sky? Sounds like we need an investigation. We'll write down the speed of our car and the angle of the sun each hour from 8 a.m. until noon. Sunshine sky, sunshine feels so nice. To try and figure out the angle of the sun, we'll measure its shadow with the string, stick, and protractor. First, we'll measure the stick's shadow at the ends. Then we'll use our string and protractor. So right now, at about 8 a.m., the sun's angle is at 25 degrees. So let's see how fast our car runs right now. For each test, we're going to use the same 40-foot course and a stopwatch to time how long it takes for our car to cross the finish line. Our guess is that our car will get less energy from the early morning sun, which is lower in the sky, so our car will move more slowly. Ready, Angelique? Yeah. 1, 2, 3, go! That was 8 seconds. Go! So what was the time then? Now it was 9 seconds. I think the average is about 8.5. Me too. Ready, Angelique? Of course. Go! 5 seconds. Now what's the time? 5 seconds. Wow. So then I guess our average is 5 seconds. Yeah. All right, it's 10 o'clock. Time for our next test. Ready, Isaac? I sure am. Hit it. time for the car, so our average is 4. It's time for our final test, the test at noon. The sun is at an angle of about 80 degrees. Let's go. What was the time? 4 seconds. Wow.
Sunshine.
So what was the average time at 8 o'clock?
Now, Isaac and Angelique chart the results. By dividing the distance traveled by the average time, they come up with the speed of the car for each hour tested.
Let's connect the dots. So our chart shows that during the day and the sun got higher, we got more solar energy hitting the car, making it go faster. So probably that means that when the sun gets higher, its rays become more concentrated on one spot. But early in the morning, when it's low in the sky, its rays are more spread out. So there are many reasons why we should use solar energy. One is it doesn't pollute. And it's cheap. The sun's always there for free, so lots of people can use it. But we still have a lot of investigating to do. Just for now, let's sit back and thank our lucky stars for the big guy in the sky. Because without it, there'd be no me, no you, no Ferris wheel, no ocean, no lights, no school, no garbage, no everybody bald because there wouldn't be any hair.
All right, so we are going to look at the claim. As the sun got higher in the sky during the day, the car traveled faster. And so we saw that when the degrees were changing, when the degrees were increasing, meaning the sun was getting higher and higher overhead, the time was increasing. And so we're just going to fill in the times real quick. So at 40 degrees, it traveled 5 seconds. At 55 degrees, it traveled at 4 seconds. And then same for 70 and 80 degrees, it traveled 4 seconds. Or it only took 4 seconds to travel their course. So the reasoning would be, so what we're seeing here is that the car got faster the later in the day that it got. And this is because the sun was higher in the sky. And so if we look back at this diagram, it's a little difficult to see, but what's happening is noon is about the time when the sun is right over our head. And so that is the time when we are almost directly facing the sun. So we've come all the way past sunrise and early morning, and the sun is high up in the sky. And so the sunlight rays are more direct, and so they're more powerful. There's more energy being carried by those rays. Whereas as we start to move away from the sun, we're getting less direct rays. We're starting to kind of face away from the sun. And so there's a lot less energy coming. That's why it cools off at night. It's cooler in the morning and the evenings typically, and usually hottest in the middle of the day when the sun is high in the sky, because we're getting the most energy during that time. And so that is part of why the car traveled faster. It was receiving more energy, and so it was able to travel faster later in the day. Okay, so the sun is lower in the sky early in the morning. The rays are more spread out. So another way of saying indirect would be to say that they were spread out. Whereas later in the day, the sun is higher in the sky and the rays are more concentrated, which just means they are, all of that energy is hitting one area instead of being spread out. All right, and that is it for your notes for today.